So we've now got all the TTK numbers for all the rifles inside Warzone at the moment, especially after the Season 4 Reloaded update. And we're going to go over what are the 5 best long-range rifles to use inside Warzone. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. Click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. So what we have on screen now is our spreadsheet with all the TTK numbers, and these are all based off a mixed shot location TTK, which is what you'd see here. This is the percentages of all the shots, and obviously this is going to be based off of 300 HP because that is the standard base health now inside Warzone for any map. Now, what we are looking at is all TTKs. We're mainly focusing on the second damage range for when it comes to long range rifles, because we want to know what the TTKs are going to be like at the longest possible range to use them. Some guns, now only just the Krig, have a 3rd damage drop off, but that's something you want to try and avoid as much as possible due to the fact that it does have a super slow time to kill. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to arrange these weapons, and we've also added in the new Vargo S assault rifle as well actually. But we're going to arrange these weapons in terms of the second damage range from A to Z to see what the fastest killing guns are. And we're going to pick out a few popular weapons here, or a few important weapons for that matter, because not all of these guns are going to be super viable at long range. So even though the AS44, AS-VAL, MG34, MG82, Fin LMG all have fast TTKs at long range, they all have very difficult recoil controls to manage, and it's not going to be viable. So then what we have is the Ugma Lmg, and this is the new LMG that I added in at the start of Season 4. And I do think this is going to be the meta gun for the rest of Season 4, especially for long range, because it moves around pretty well. And on top of that, it has a super fast time to kill and pretty much no recoil still. So definitely probably the meta gun, and we'll go over the build in just a second. The M91's pretty solid if you do want to try and use it. Not a lot of people like this gun, so obviously I can imagine it's not going to be too popular. MG42 is okay, but is not great. Movement's kind of a bit slow on this gun. PKM and Bruin are definitely solid options overall, so you can definitely use them if you enjoy using both of those guns. The Whitley LMG, in my opinion, is definitely going to be another really good option. I think it's going to be a little bit better than the Bruin and the PKM because the recoil is a little bit easier to manage because they keep buffing this gun. Then we've got guns like the Type 11, which is okay. We've got the Grav, too much recoil. Cooper Carbine is probably going to be the best AR in the game. I do think the Vargo 52, so this is the old Vargo assault rifle, is going to be a solid option. They never nerfed the recoil on this gun, so overall it's still a solid gun. We've got the C58 as well, which is a solid gun, and the XM4 as well. And as you can see here, you've got a lot of the other guns down at the bottom in terms of TTK here. So we've got the KGM40, which obviously does have super low recoil, but it does have one of the lowest time to kills. And then we've got the STG, we've also got the NZ41 all in here. So these are all the kind of low recoil guns that do have now more recoil because they've actually nerfed them. So they nerfed the STG and they nerfed the NZ41. The KGM40 is still pretty solid in terms of recoil control, but like I said, these guns are going to kill the absolute slowest. Before we get into the actual top 5 list, I do want to give a quick couple of shout outs to certain weapons here. The first is the Kilo. The Kilo did get a huge buff with this update, and I do think is going to be a solid option. Now, the gun has super low recoil, it's only got 2 damage drop-offs now, and it's very competitive within the super low recoil guns. It's actually got a faster time to kill at long range than the NZ41 now, so the Kilo is going to be a solid option for sure. Then we've got the KGM40. For anyone who was using this gun earlier on, this gun is still a solid option. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to the barrel, they actually nerfed the shrouded barrel, so it's got more horizontal recoil than the 700mm barrel. So now you actually want to go for the 700mm. It's going to help with the side-to-side recoil way more than the 720mm. So keep that in mind. The rest of the build stays pretty much the same. Next up, we've got the M4. You can't really go too wrong with this gun right now. It's a solid option. It's got pretty much low recoil and it's a very competitive TTK, so definitely still good too. Then we've got the Vargo 52 assault rifle, which is surprisingly still a good option even after the introduction of the Vargo S. Now, I know I've labeled this as a top 5 video, but I had to throw in a 6th weapon here because the M13 is a super competitive weapon right now. It's got pretty much no recoil, the gun's super easy to use, everyone has leveled it up because it's a Modern Warfare gun, and the build you do want to use is the mono suppressor, the marksman barrel for the best recoil control, the VLK optic, the 60 round mags, and the commando foregrip. Overall, this gun's an absolute beast right now, and if you want something that's very easy to use, then the M13 is going to be your go-to. At number 5, we have a gun that's a bit more competitive in terms of TTK, and a gun that I definitely think is going to be a solid option for the rest of Season 4, and that's going to be the C58. This is going to be like what the AMAX should have been. Even though the AMAX got a buff, it's still not got a competitive TTK compared to the C58, so this is going to be basically the new AMAX, more or less. So you do want to use the agency suppressor for the sound suppression, recoil control, task force barrel for the recoil control, axial arms 3x optic, and then you do want to use the 55 round mags now that we've got 300 HP in the game. Field agent grip is going to be the best to control recoil. At number 4, we've actually got the XM4, and I do think the XM4 is going to be a really solid option. It's got a good balance of TTK, recoil control, and I do think it's going to be a little bit easier to control than the Vargo assault rifle, and that's why more people will choose this weapon. And overall, just a lot easier to use than even the M4, so people will be choosing the XM4 a bit more regularly. Plus, it's got better movement speed. So we've got the agency suppressor, we've got the task force barrel here, we've got the axial free time, 60 round mags, field agent grip. The builds don't really change for most of these guns unless it's specific changes to the attachments. At number 3, we have what I believe to be the best assault rifle in the game right now, and that is the Cooper Carbine. Even though it did get a recoil nerf to its horizontal recoil control, it's still going to be the easiest to use assault rifle in this entire game right now. It's got a very competitive time to kill, even though it's super easy to use. Just overall, it's a really solid gun. So the build again doesn't really change for this, but you do want to use the MX silencer for the recoil control. You do want to use the Cooper custom barrel, which is going to give you the best possible recoil control, 3 to 6 times optic, Cooper 45 stock, tight grip for the recoil control, of course, on hand for the better ADS time, polymer grip for the sustained fire accuracy, 60 round mags, the lengthened ammo type, and the strife angled grip. If you're using the hand stop, make sure you stop using that, pun intended, and then use the strife angle. It's going to help with the side to side recoil, because that is what the con was with the recent update, so just keep that in mind. At number 2, we have a gun that you can never really rule out of this game, and that is the STG. Since it's been in Warzone, it's always been a solid option, and it's still a solid option now. I've tested it out in plunder matches to see what the recoil feels like after the nerf, and if you do change a couple of attachments, it does still feel pretty solid. So you do want to use the MX silencer for the sound suppression and recoil control, 760mm barrel. This did get nerfed for horizontal recoil control, and so did the Krosnik barrel as well. Both got nerfed for the same reasons. 3 to 6 times optic, weighted stock, acrobatic for better movement speed, and this is why this gun still feels super good, because the movement on it is still very solid, along with the long range potential of the weapon. On hand for better ADS time, polymer grip for the better recoil control. You can actually use the hatch grip as well. Both are pretty good options. I would just switch between the two, see which one feels better to you, but I do think the polymer grip is the better option. Then we've got the Grenko 50 round mags, which is going to help with the fire rate and recoil control. And then you want to actually start using the strife angled grip, because what actually got conned with the STG with the update once again was the side to side recoil. So the strife angled will be better than the hand stop under barrel. And last but not least, at number 1, we have the Ugma Lmg. Now, this gun was super meta for a little while, actually, when it got introduced into the game. And then it kind of took a bit of a nerf, and now I do think it's the meta long-range rifle to use, hands down. It's got the fastest possible TTK out of all the guns in this list, but also it's got the fastest possible TTK out of any long-range rifle that's actually viable at long range in terms of recoil, so it's definitely a solid option. And then on top of that, it's got good movement speeds as well for an LMG. So you do want to use the MX silencer for the sound suppression and recoil control. The Bernard barrel is the best at controlling recoil, and you want to use this in the fully automatic mode, of course. The 3 to 6 times optic. The Mercier stock is going to be the best at controlling recoil with sustained fire. Tight grip, again with that sustained fire recoil control. Make sure you don't use brace. And then on hand is going to help you with the ADS time, obviously with that movement speed. Polymer grip for the sustained fire once again. 75 round British mags. You could go for the 50 round British mags as well, but I do think 75 rounds is a good balance of movement speed, as well as having a big enough mag to take out multiple opponents. So that's why I went for the 75 rounds, lengthened, and then the hand stop under barrel. And overall, this is the best long range rifle in the game right now. So there we have it. Those are the 5 best long range rifles inside Warzone. I know essentially I gave you a lot of different options, but if you pick any of the guns from this video, you can't really go wrong when it comes to long range rifles in this game. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe subscribe, click that link and subscribe to our second channel, and thank you very much for watching.